When Sophie and Justin Trudeau parted ways, the world called it a dignified split, a gentle ending to a long public love story. But behind the smiles, something deeper lingered now. With whispers of Justin's growing closeness to Katy Perry, those hidden emotions have resurfaced. And for the first time, sources say Sophie isn't silent, she's hurt. Anger, disappointment, and the feeling of being replaced not in politics, but in love. Because sometimes the real storms don't make headlines, they live in the hearts of the people who once shared a home. She stood beside him through every scandal, every camera flash, every political storm. And now, she's watching the man she once loved step into a new life with one of the world's biggest pop stars. This is the story of Sophie Trudeau, a woman scorned, a heart broken, and a romance that nobody saw coming. Sophie Trudeau didn't ask for this life. Not really. When she first met Justin, she was a television host, a woman carving her own path in the world of media and entertainment. Beautiful, ambitious, intelligent. She had her own dreams, her own identity, but love. Love has a way of changing everything. They met when they were kids. Can you imagine that? Childhood acquaintances who grew up, reconnected, and fell into what looked like a fairy tale. It was 2003 when they began dating seriously. 2 years later, Justin proposed. And in 2005, they married in Montreal, surrounded by family, friends, and the promise of forever. Forever is a long time. And sometimes, it doesn't last. For nearly 2 decades, Sophie stood by Justin's side as he climbed the political ladder. She watched him transform from a teacher, a regular guy with famous parents, into the Prime Minister of Canada. The youngest leader the country had seen in over a century. The world adored him. His smile, his charisma, the way he championed progressive values and wore colorful socks to international summits. He was different, fresh, and Sophie. She was right there, the perfect partner, raising their 3 children, advocating for mental health and women's rights, smiling through every photo op, but behind the scenes, something was cracking. You see, being married to a prime minister isn't like being married to anyone else. It's not just about love. It's about duty, sacrifice, living in the spotlight where every move you make is dissected, criticized, analyzed. Sophie tried to be everything she was supposed to be. The supportive wife, the devoted mother, the public figure who never complained, never faltered, never showed weakness. But the cracks were there. Small at first, whispers in the media, speculation about their relationship. Were they happy? Were they struggling? In 2023, those whispers became a roar when Sophie and Justin released a statement that shattered the illusion. They were separating after 18 years of marriage. It was over. The statement was polite, cordial. They spoke about their children, their respect for each other, their commitment to co-parenting. But words on a page can't capture the weight of a broken heart. And Sophie's heart. It was shattered. She had given up so much. Her career had taken a back seat. Her identity had become intertwined with his. And now, as she faced the reality of starting over, the world was watching, judging, commenting. Everyone had an opinion about what went wrong, who was to blame, whether they saw it coming. But Sophie stayed quiet, dignified. She didn't lash out. She didn't give interviews trashing her ex-husband. She focused on her children, on rebuilding her life, on finding herself again after so many years of being Justin Trudeau's wife. And then the news broke. Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry, together. Rumors at first. Blurry paparazzi photos. Anonymous sources whispering to tabloids. But the whispers grew louder, more insistent, until it became impossible to ignore. The Prime Minister of Canada and one of the world's most famous pop stars. It sounded like fiction, like a plot from a soap opera. But it was real Katy Perry, the woman who sang I Kissed a Girl and Firework. The woman who had her own very public relationships, her own heartbreaks, her own journey through love and loss. She and Orlando Bloom had broken up, gotten back together, gotten engaged, had a child. Their relationship was complicated, messy, real. And now? She was reportedly involved with Justin Trudeau. For Sophie, this wasn't just another headline. This was personal. This was the man she had built a life with, moving on in the most public way imaginable. Not with a quiet, private relationship, but with a global superstar. Someone whose face was on billboards, whose songs played on every radio station, whose life was even more public than Sophie's had ever been. Sources close to Sophie say. She's angry, disappointed, hurt, and who could blame her? It's one thing to separate, to acknowledge that a relationship has run its course. It's another thing entirely to watch your ex-husband step into a new romance that dominates every news cycle, every social media feed, every conversation. She had to explain this to their children, had to watch them see their father's new relationship splashed across the internet, had to navigate the complex emotions of her own heartbreak while being a mother, a role model, a source of stability for kids who were already dealing with their parents' separation, and the world. The world had opinions. Some people criticized Justin, saying he moved on too quickly, that he was insensitive to his family. Others defended him, arguing that he had a right to find happiness, that his personal life was his own business. And Katy Perry. She became a lightning rod for controversy, accused by some of being a homewrecker, defended by others who pointed out that Justin and Sophie were already separated when this relationship began. But Sophie stayed silent. Again, she didn't release angry statements. She didn't subtly shade her ex on social media. She took the high road, even as her private pain became public entertainment. Even as people debated her marriage, her worth, her future on platforms she couldn't control. Let's rewind for a moment. Let's talk about who Sophie really is. Because this story isn't just about a failed marriage or a new celebrity romance. It's about a woman who had her own life, her own dreams. Before she became known primarily as someone's wife, Sophie was born in Montreal in 1975. She grew up in a world of privilege, yes, but also pressure. Beauty, intelligence, expectations. She studied commerce, worked in advertising and sales, eventually finding her way into television. She was good at it. Natural on camera. Warm, engaging, real. She could have built an entire career in media. She was on her way. But then came Justin, and love, and a choice. She chose him. Chose to support his dreams, his ambitions, his rise to power. She became a mother, an advocate, a public figure in her own right. She spoke about eating disorders, about mental health, about the struggles women face trying to balance everything society expects of them. She was open, vulnerable, honest. And people loved her for it. But here's the thing about sacrificing your own path for someone else's. Eventually, you have to reckon with what you gave up. Eventually, you have to ask yourself, who am I without this person? What do I want for my life, not just for theirs? Sophie had to ask herself those questions. And the answers, they weren't easy. When the separation was announced, Sophie moved out of the official residence. She found her own space. Started rebuilding. She focused on her work with mental health advocacy. She spent time with her children. She reconnected with friends. With parts of herself that had been dormant for years. It was hard, painful, but also liberating. And then Justin moved on. Publicly, dramatically. With someone who couldn't be more different from Sophie if she tried. Katy Perry is bold, flamboyant, unapologetically herself. Her music is about empowerment, about fun, about living life on your own terms. She's been through her own share of relationships, her own public breakups. She married Russell Brand in 2010. Divorced him in 2012. She dated John Mayer. Diplo, Orlando Bloom. She's a mother now. To a daughter named Daisy. She's evolved, grown, changed. She's not the same person she was when Teenage Dream topped the charts, and Justin. He's not the same person he was when he married Sophie. Power changes people. Fame changes people. 18 years of marriage, 3 children, countless scandals and crises, all of it leaves a mark. Maybe they grew apart. Maybe they wanted different things. Maybe the pressure of living in the public eye, of being perfect all the time, of never having a private moment. Maybe it was too much, but for Sophie, watching him find happiness with someone new feels like betrayal. Not because he doesn't have the right to move on, but because it happened so fast, so publicly. With someone so unavoidable, she can't escape it. The headlines. The photos. The speculation. Is it serious? Will they get married? What does Orlando Bloom think? What do Justin's kids think? What does Canada think? Everyone has an opinion. Everyone except Sophie, who continues to stay quiet, dignified, focused on moving forward. But sources say the silence is costing her. That privately, she's struggling. That she's angry not just at Justin, but at the situation. At the unfairness of it all. She did everything right. She was the perfect partner. And now she's watching him live his best life while she's still picking up the pieces of hers. It's a story as old as time. Woman supports man. Man becomes successful. Man moves on. Woman is left to rebuild. But Sophie is more than a cautionary tale. She's a survivor. A mother. A woman who is slowly, painfully, beautifully finding herself again. She started speaking more at events, sharing her story. Not about Justin, not about the separation, but about her own journey. About mental health. About resilience. About learning to love yourself after you've spent years loving someone else more. She's inspiring, real, vulnerable in a way that makes people listen. That makes them see her not as a victim, but as someone who is actively choosing to move forward, even when it hurts. And Justin? He's living his life. Whether his relationship with Katy is real, serious, or just a moment in time, only they know. But the optics? They're not great. Moving on with a pop star while your ex-wife is trying to rebuild. Her life looks insensitive, thoughtless, like he's not considering how this affects Sophie, how it affects their children. Maybe he is considering it. Maybe he's doing the best he can in an impossible situation. Maybe he's just trying to find happiness after his own pain, his own struggles. Marriage endings are never one-sided. Both people play a role. Both people hurt, but the public sees what the public sees. And right now, what they see is Sophie, graceful and strong, standing alone. And Justin, moving forward without looking back. Katy Perry hasn't commented. She stayed out of it, which is probably the smartest move. But she's also living her life, posting on social media, performing, being the star she's always been. And every time she does, people connect her to Justin, to Sophie, to this whole messy, complicated situation. It's a reminder that fame comes with a price. That your personal life stops being personal the moment someone snaps a photo. That heartbreak, when it's public, becomes entertainment. A story for people to discuss over coffee, to debate online, to dissect like it's not about real people with real feelings. Sophie knows this. She's lived it, and she's choosing every day to rise above it, to focus on what matters. Her children, her work, herself. But make no mistake, she's angry, she's disappointed, and she has every right to be. This is her story. A story about love and loss, about sacrifice and rebuilding, About a woman who gave everything for a partnership that didn't last, and is now learning to stand on her own. She's not defined by her ex-husband. She's not defined by his new relationship. She's defined by her strength, her grace, her refusal to be broken by circumstances beyond her control. And that's the real story. So what happens next? Only time will tell. Maybe Justin and Katy will last. Maybe they won't. Maybe Sophie will find love again. Maybe she'll choose to focus on herself, her children, her work. Maybe she'll write a book, give the interview she's been holding back. Finally tell her side of the story. Or maybe she'll continue to do what she's been doing. Living quietly, gracefully, with dignity. Whatever happens, one thing is certain. Sophie Trudeau is more than Justin's ex-wife. She's a mother, an advocate, a survivor, and her story, it's far from over. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Luminoir for more deep dives into the lives of the people behind the headlines. Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. And remember, everyone you see in the spotlight is human, with feelings, with struggles, with stories worth hearing.